Hey guys, thanks for checking out my last vid where we talked about comparing the offset smoker to the bullet smoker. If you haven't seen the video, I'll drop it in the links below. But today it's a bit of a cold day, so I thought we'd talk about fire. We're going to talk about the 5 things you need to know about fire. One is your fuel, lighting your fire, building your fire, controlling your temperature, and maintaining your fire throughout the cook. So we've already got our fire lit here, ready to go. So let's get into it. All right, let's talk hot rocks. These are the hot rocks that you typically can use in your brazier. They're made up of scrap timber, scrap leftover sawdust, coal, and a fuel accelerant. So the advantage of using these ones is they'll burn consistently for a long time. So in a particular cook, you'll probably get 5 to 6 hours out of these, which is great if you're doing a really, really long cook. You don't want to have to mess around with them too much. These are definitely the way to go. The downside to these ones are though that they ash up a lot. So you do get a lot of sandy style ash. And if you don't give these a bit of a shake every hour to 2 hours inside the smoker, what can happen is the ash will build up around it, cuts the oxygen supply off, and they tend to put themselves out. So when your heat starts dropping and you know you've got plenty of fuel, that's usually a #1 sign is that just needs a little bit of a shake up in there just to get the ash off those. All right, lump charcoal. Okay, this is my favorite. This is a natural product. So this is natural timber, and it's charred up like this by being put into a kiln with low oxygen where it's charred up. And this is great for adding straight into your fire. So because it's a natural timber, you will get a bit of a natural smoke off this and a natural flavor, whilst I still add timber to the fire to give it that real smoky flavor. This is definitely a great start. Okay, so the good advantage about this one is that unlike the hot rocks that sand up and they ash up and can put themselves out, these don't do that. So this is just like adding timber to your fire. You just get a little bit of ash left over, but it's pretty thin and pretty minimal. So definitely an advantage to these ones. The downside to this one is it doesn't burn for near as long. So whilst we might get 5 to 6 hours out of the hot rocks, this one here, definitely a lot less time. So this will burn hotter quicker. Still, this is one of my favorites because it does give a great flavor. It's quick to light and it's quick to catch on fire when you're adding it to your box. So definitely would recommend these. What I tend to do with the offset smoker is do a combination of both. So when I start up my fire this morning, I had about half the hot rocks and half the charcoal, and that's what made my bed that I could add my logs to later. So as I'm topping up throughout, I won't add any more hot rocks through the fire. I'll just add these in as I need them to keep that heat inside the box. Okay, so the easiest way to start your fire is to get yourself one of these chimneys. They're around $20 mark. Just fill that up with your hot rocks and your lump charcoal, a couple of fire starters underneath. Away you go. You can use rolled up bits of newspaper to get your fire started, but allow yourself probably half an hour for that chimney to fully catch a light before you transfer to the hot box. All right guys, so our fire's just about ready to go here. So what you want is you want that top layer just charcoaled over so it goes a nice grey colour. That's how you know it's ready to transfer into the firebox. So recommend a set of these, a set of good old welding gloves from Bunnings. Let's transfer that fire into our firebox. All right, we've transferred our coals to the firebox now, and we've pushed them to the back of the firebox. And there's a couple of reasons we do that. One is when you need to tend to the fire later and you need to probe it around, you don't have to reach over the hot coals to do that. It's all at the back. The other reason is for our timber. So I've got a nice piece of iron bark here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it into the front of the firebox. All right, just going to let that timber warm up for now. Just helps to dry it out a little bit. All right, close the lid. We'll come back to it in about 20 minutes. Okay, so that brings me to tip number 4, which is controlling your temperature in your offset smoker. All right, the way you control the temperature in an offset smoker is by the airflow. Okay, so the small vent on the side here and the vent on top of the flue. Now, I'd usually shut this flue off to about 1/3 of the way. Okay, now the fire's established, we've got a pretty good temperature. I'll back that to about 1/3, and I never normally touch that throughout the cook. All the temperature control is through this side one here. So I'll back that off to about halfway now, which seems to be a good starting point, and then I can make slight adjustments from there. One tip is, don't shut it off too far. If you shut that right down trying to get the heat out, you won't put enough oxygen into the firebox, and your wood will start to smoke really heavily, and it's a dirty type of smoke. It's not the smoke we sort of want. What we want is just a clear smoke, almost bluish in color. That's the perfect amount of smoke. If you need to drop temperature out of your chamber really quickly because the fire's gotten too hot, the best thing you can do is just open the door. All right guys, so our hot coals have been going for a little while now. They've settled down. We've got a pretty good consistent temperature, and I've backed that vent off to about halfway, just over halfway down. It's pretty breezy today, so we're getting a lot of air through there. And we're doing beef jerky on here today. We need the temperature to be low. So now comes time to change to the timber over into the firebox. So the lump charcoal and the hot coals is what's giving us our heat. It's not what gives us our smoke. Although we'll get a little bit of smokiness from the lump charcoal, it's not enough for the meat that we're going to do. So what we need to do is build a fire with our timber. Now we put our log on there early and we set that to the front so we could get that nice and warm and dry that out. So it's ready to go. We're going to move that onto the hot rocks, and then we're going to replace that timber with our next piece for down the track. Okay, again, this will heat this up nicely. It'll draw the moisture out of it. And what that means is when we want to use it, we can transfer it to the hot coals. It'll ignite really quickly, and we won't get that big plume of smoke that comes when you throw a new log onto a fire, because the moisture content's already been drawn out and it's going to light up nice and fast. So let's get it done. All right guys, thanks for checking out the video on 5 tips on building a fire. Just remember, these are just my tips. There's obviously a number of ways to do it, but if you've got any questions, throw them in the comments below. Otherwise, check out our next video, which will be one of my favorites, baby back ribs.
Please like and subscribe. Cut.
Make sure you join us on our next video, where we'll talk about one of my favorites, pork baby back ribs. That was the best one yet.